Well, hello there. It's been a minute, and I apologize for how long it took to get this video out. I was a little busy admiring this. If you did pre-order one of the plushies for me, should be shipping to you now, so there you go. In today's video, we're going to be discussing a curious incident that you may have seen unfold on Twitter a while back, or recently, depending on when you're watching this, between my friend, Labb Ratt, and a notorious furry group that often champions free speech, but has a curious habit of issuing copyright claims when someone has something adverse to say. To protect myself from rather trigger-happy lawyers they seem to have, we'll be using alternate names for the LLC in question, their leader, and anyone else involved who may have a bone to pick. In addition, we'll also take a close look into the state of copyright laws and all possible violations Labb Ratt may or may not have infringed upon in the 2 videos that were issued copyright claims prior to her receiving a formal cease and desist. Strap in, or on, depending on your preference, but here we go. Now, before I make you want to rip your hair out and scream into the void, I wanted to point out that this video is sponsored by me, actually. My new track Insecurity is available on all streaming services that I can think of. If one's missing, tell me. And I would honestly love it if you checked it out. Well, with that out of the way, let's start with some basics. What is fair use and copyright? While I could go into all of the multiple variations of international copyright law, I am saved by the mere fact that the person who issued the strike and then subsequently the cease and desist is an American citizen. So I get to look at this through the American lens, since that is the point of origin for the person who seems to have an issue. So, yay! I wasn't looking forward to looking into international law, because as it pertains to fair use, we can reference Section 107 of the Copyright Act, which states, fair use is a legal doctrine that promotes freedom of expression by permitting the unlicensed use of copyrighted... Let's try that again. Fair use is a legal doctrine that promotes freedom of expression by permitting the unlicensed use of copyright-protected works in certain circumstances. To break that down, essentially, fair use is in place to protect those who wish to use copyrighted material in a transformative manner. Before we go any further, I should also mention, I am not a lawyer. I did not go to law school. I am referencing websites that are either .gov or are part of a law school in some form or fashion that has accreditations, because I am not a lawyer. Anyways, as cited on copyright.gov, the following are considered to be acceptable under fair use: criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Now, when being considered by the court, if it gets to court, the following factors are often in play as well: purpose and character of the use, including whether the use is of commercial nature or is for non-profit educational purposes; nature of the actual copyrighted work; amount and substantiality of the portion used in relation to the copyrighted work as a whole; effect of the use upon the potential market for or value of the copyrighted work. To simplify these, what courts effectively are looking for is to see if the piece in question is a wholesale rip-off of the original being used for profit or being used to devalue the original. That's a lot of words. Maybe examples would help. Would they? Possibly. Okay, let's get into some examples here. As an example, if I were to make a song and someone were to download it themselves, re-upload it onto YouTube for the purposes of profit to display sales of the original, that wouldn't be fair use. However, if a music critic used portions of my song to offer criticism on the piece in a YouTube video, that would potentially fall under fair use. Cool, let's do more reading, because that's fun. Let's dive into copyright as it pertains to the United States, because that is exactly how I wanted to spend my afternoon. Let's start with the most basic of it. What can be copyrighted? Like, what can you copyright as it pertains to the United States of America, which again is where this whole shebang originated. The person pulled this shit is from America. So, what can be copyrighted? Literary works, musical works, dramatic works, choreography, or pantomime, which I didn't know, pictorial, graphic, or sculptural work, motion pictures, architecture. So that seems pretty simple. That's what you can copyright, right? Open and shut. That's what you can spank a copyright on, right? That doesn't seem too hard to follow. Well, not really. There is a bevy of special circumstances for all different types of copyrighted work, and to spare you the headache of having to go through each and every situation, although I will link this page below if you want some light reading on your weekend. We're going to be looking at pictorials specifically, as I think that appears to be the source of the cease and desist sent to Labb Ratt, as well as the actual copyright strikes. I could be wrong, but based on the information I was given, all the research I did, I think it's a pictorial piece that is copyrighted that landed Labb in hot water. I think. LLC I'm not naming, feel free to let me know if my guess is correct. Okay, so in the cease and desist, the law firm that was used specifically calls out Section 106, Article 17. So what exactly does that say? Subject to Sections 107 through 122, the owner of copyright under this title has the exclusive rights to do and to authorize any of the following: to reproduce the copyrighted work in copies or phonorecords, to prepare derivative works based upon the copyrighted work, to distribute copies or phonorecords of the copyrighted work to the public by sale or other transfer of ownership, or by rental, lease, or lending. In the case of literary, musical, dramatic, and choreographic works, pantomimes and motion pictures, and other audiovisual works, to perform the copyrighted work publicly. In the case of literary, musical, dramatic, and other choreographic works, pantomimes and pictorial, graphic, or sculptural works, including the individual images of a motion picture or other audiovisual work, to display the copyrighted work publicly. And in the case of sound recordings, to perform the copyrighted work publicly by means of a digital audio transmission. So basically what this says is, if you are the owner of the copyright, you have the ability to do any of the things I just said, or authorize someone else to do them. That's basically all that means. That's it. That's a lot of words to just say that. Okay. All right, so we shall call this person Fiddlesticks. So Fiddlesticks' law firm is stating here that the owner of the copyright, Fiddlesticks, allegedly has the right to use his copyrighted image, or let someone else do it. That's it. So cool. Where is the issue exactly? The next citation refers to section 500 through 505, Article 17. So I'm going to take a look and see what that says. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of words. So there's a lot of words. So I'm going to try to simplify and paraphrase this. Any of the people who watch this channel, if you are in fact a lawyer that works in copyright law and I misspeak on this, please correct me in the comments. I am not a lawyer. I am just interested in what the fuck happened here. Essentially, these sections detail the occurrences of infringing on a copyright. The big one to note here is that the copyright holder may be asked to notify the person infringing on the copyright, which appears to be what happened when the cease and desist was sent. And what's curious is it's unclear if the material claimed in Labb Ratt's video had actually been formally copyrighted by the Copyright Office. I did not see anything in there that, actually showed proof that copyright was in place, that it had been formally filed with the Copyright Office in any shape or form. And in fact, in the entire cease and desist, they didn't mention specifically what went against the copyright. Like, I assume it was the image of Fiddlesticks that flashed on the screen for maybe a minute at most, just to give context to who Fiddlesticks was, and that's it. But other than that, I didn't. It was really, really vague. It was vague as shit, with lots of articles being spanked in, and it was vague. So as you might have guessed here, the straw that broke Fart Ripper LLC's back was the brief use of a photo of Fiddlesticks in a news reporting/commentary video on Free-For-All. That appears to be it. Now, what's incredibly bizarre about the entire thing is that the same photo can be seen in a Daily Mail article, which I've linked below. So did the Daily Mail also get a cease and desist? and get pinged for copyright violation? Or was this violation specifically about the photo? Or like what was the issue here? Well, given what we learned about copyright law, it's most likely that it was the image used itself. I think I should point out, as far as I know, as not a lawyer, you cannot copyright a fursuit. I'm pretty sure. If by the time you've watched this video that is a thing, let me know below, but you can't copyright a fursuit. What you can copyright, I believe, is pictorial things. So an image of a fursuit. I can't copyright this fursuit, but if I take a high quality photo of this and then I find that it's being sold on Etsy for like $50 or something, then I might actually have a case. That's the best example I can think of giving. I was curious who had actually taken the photo and if this photo had been copyrighted. So I kind of started digging because it's not super clear who took this, and I didn't really find any credit given on any of the instances where I'd seen this posted. So first what I did is I actually grabbed the image in question that Labb had used. I asked her, which one did you use? And she sent it to me. So I did a Google reverse image search and I found this image in the following places, and they have not been taken down. So let's get through the note here. I saw it in a Rolling Stones article, which I can link below. I also found it on a Barstool Sports article, which I'll also link below. And during my search to figure out who the hell took this photo, the only accreditation I could find was a teeny little bit of text in the corner that said Facebook. So given that I have worked a lot of shit on Facebook before, like I used to market on Facebook, that was my thing, and I've handled this shit before, I had to quickly refresh my memory because I was curious how exactly copyright works on Facebook, given that it's sort of been wishy-washy lately. So here's kind of what Facebook says. There may be situations where you might think you have a copyright in an original work, but you may not. For example, if you appear in a photo or video, that doesn't necessarily mean you have a copyright in that photo or video. If you take a photograph of a sculpture, that doesn't mean you have the right to prevent someone else from also taking a photograph of that same sculpture. If you create a work as part of your regular job responsibilities, you might not be the owner of the copyright in that work. Instead, there are circumstances where the law will consider your employer to be the author of that work for copyright purposes. Okay, so the one thing that stuck out here is this photo featured Fiddlesticks. In suit, you can see both hands free, and unless Fiddlesticks took the camera, plopped it down, set a timer, and then ran back over, I don't think he took it, and that got me a little curious. So if he didn't take it, who did exactly? Who took the photo? Who technically has the copyright on this photo? Because the law firm, when they sent the cease and desist to Labb Ratt, said that the copyright was being infringed on behalf of Fart Rippers LLC. As far as I know, that LLC is registered under Fiddlesticks. But if Fiddlesticks didn't take that photo, then who did? Or did the original owner of that copyright sell the copyright of that photo to Fiddlesticks? That is what's unclear, and I'm not sure. So I guess where I'm getting very confused in this whole situation is, was that the case? Did someone take the picture, sell the copyright to Fiddlesticks so that Fiddlesticks could start playing whack-a-mole with YouTube's copyright system? Or what's going on here? I also took an agonizing look through the listed staff of the Fart Ripper LLC's website. The closest approximation to a potential photographer was a bluish-looking wolf person, and in screenshots shared with me from Labb Ratt, this bluish wolf person denied leveling the copyright strike. So who did? Who did? If that is the closest person who could have maybe taken the photo, who did and why? So it's no new phenomenon to see larger entities target smaller creators with copyright strikes, DMCA claims, and other strong-arming to silence their critique of a property. For example, in 2015, the creator of the Cool Cat franchise notably leveled strikes on a handful of video critics after their scathing review of his series of films, despite all of them falling under fair use. So if these copyright strikes were fraudulent in any way, surely YouTube would quickly amend the situation or deny the person from leveling the strike, right? Well, no. Because YouTube has moved to more of an AI technically based system, smaller creators often have to see ridiculous strikes and claims set against them by fraudulent claimants as a form of intimidation. Large entities know that, and they also know that YouTube's system is automated and often messy. And this way, they they often file fraudulent claims knowing well in advance that YouTube staff themselves will likely never see the report and realize that it's been falsely filed. To make matters worse, larger entities also rely on smaller creators to not actually know the extent of copyright law and not be aware that these claims might be false. But the most sinister reason is that they also know that to fight any claim, a creator must willingly dox themselves by confirming their legal name and address. How do I know this? Because oddly enough, when I made my own video on Fart Rippers LLC way back in the day, I also received a copyright claim. Now, as you might imagine, I prefer to keep my identity as secure as I can and don't really feel comfortable sharing my legal name, much less my address. So I didn't even bother fighting it. I just deleted the video and went, okay, let's move right along. Seeing this situation now, I'm actually kind of glad I did, as one of the people that had been stalking me for a bit, might still be stalking me, we haven't gotten any closure on that yet, did have potentially ties to Fart Rippers LLC and was a proud member allegedly. So yeah, the last thing I wanted to do was give my name and address to the same group that has a stalker following me and could probably access it if they really wanted to. Nope. However, Labb chose to fight this claim and, wouldn't you know, received the cease and desist pretty shortly after, and then got another strike on a completely separate video. Now, amidst all this, I was genuinely curious who these lawyers were and if they were legit, so I did some more digging. So the firm, which we shall call Boutique Firm, is based out of the same state as Fiddlesticks and appears to be real. So glad to see that, because that would have been awkward. Among their expertise, sure enough, intellectual property is a service that they offer. While I'd love to say that this firm is a bunch of baloney and a sham, it doesn't appear to be, aside from a really weirdly low number of testimonials. But I get it, probably doing lots of testimonials would just seem a little overkill. Under their specific services regarding copyright, one offering is reproducing a copyrighted image for profit without permission. This one struck me as curious, as I'm sure many are aware that YouTube for smaller creators generates about diddly squat in ad revenue, and many, if not all, of Labb's videos serve as transformative works, which are covered by fair use, because the bulk of them are news reporting and critique, including the 2 that got strikes. They fell under fair use, so technically you don't have any feet to stand on here on that claim, right? Well, what's missing from their listing with all these offerings? Wouldn't you know, fair use is not mentioned a single time on this page, not once. Which leads me to believe that fair use was not taken into account by this law firm at all. Shocking. Alright, so how can you help smaller creators that might be facing this? Unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do. In terms of options open to smaller creators, there's not much. Most have to rely on YouTube's wonky automated system or appeal again and again and again until a real human person steps in to rectify a false claim. I know, because I have had to do it, and it's a pain in the ass. That, by the way, can take weeks, months, or in a case I recently had to deal with on my own channel, 2 years. 2 years. I had one of my own songs claimed by a random music group that I've never heard of, claim that one of my original songs was theirs, which was really fucking weird when you're the person who wrote the lyrics, performed them, and even did the melody. What the fuck? The system is broken as hell, and given that Labb is based out of not the United States, the chances of her flying across the country to fight a falsely filed copyright strike is slim to none. Labb does not even live on this continent. So I don't see flying across the country to deal with a little shit is really something she's gonna do. But how can you help? Well, I've linked Labb's channel below, as probably the best support you can offer her for free is to just subscribe to her channel and watch her videos. Start watching them, the ones that are still up. Additionally, consider supporting her on any monetized platforms she has. I don't know if she has Patreon or I don't know. I'm sure she'll have anything linked, but if you want to help financially, the best way to do it is support her on those monetized platforms. That's the best thing I can think of. As it stands currently, she's now fighting 2 frivolous copyright strikes, and if a third comes in, it could result in and her channel being, I guess as people in her country say, in the bin. As an aside, fiddlesticks. If you are watching, please get fully bent. I think we all know this is utter BS, and reading through the entirety of the cease and desist, I don't think you have much ground to stand on here, and I'm honestly kind of disgusted that you would abuse YouTube's system just because your fursuit showed up on a commentary video for like not even that long, and to be fair, it was a critique, so you know it's under fair use. You know. So please, just get bent, Doodles.